So, woven into the plot of Sabrina's choices concerning her dark baptism, signing the Book of the Beast, she does sign in the end in order to gain enough power to defeat another powerful magical threat to her friends and family, entering the Unseen Academy, challenging the patriarchal structure of the Church of Night, and ultimately becoming the Queen of Hell, is the figure of Madame Satan or Lilith. She appears in the town of Greendale in the first episode of part 1, taking on the form of Sabrina's favourite teacher, Miss Wardwell. Initially, we see Lilith as the Dark Lord's right-hand woman, trying to curb Sabrina's resistance to hand herself over to Satan through avoiding her dark baptism. But as the plot develops, and Sabrina in the end does join the Church of Night, in part 2 of the series, she decides to use her powers to deconstruct the misogynist hierarchies of the church, challenging Father Blackwood's power and ultimately seeking to dethrone Satan himself. During the second part of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, we encounter a relationship between Sabrina and Madame Satan that in many ways profoundly, I would argue, echoes the relationship between Eve and Lilith imagined by Judith Plaskow in her 1972 feminist rewriting of the Garden of Eden story that we looked at in week 5, The Coming of Lilith, in which Plaskow also writes a creative midrash on the rabbinic myth of Adam's first wife, Lilith, and of course, the 8th century alphabet of Ben Sira, which describes Lilith as the wanton tearaway first wife of Adam who refused to lie below him during sex, instead favouring to flee to the wilderness and live out her days as a child-snatching demon. Plaskow retells the story of Adam's 2 wives, this time imagining the community of women that might be possible if Eve escaped Eden and sought out Lilith. I argue that a similar relationship ultimately develops between the Eve-like Sabrina and Lilith in part 2 of the Chilling Adventures, although this time their partnership is less a threat to Adam and God and more a threat to Satan himself. Interestingly, just as Eve allows Lilith the opportunity to tell her own story and vice versa in Plaskow's Midrash, so too do the activities of Sabrina offer the same chance for the Lilith character in the Chilling Adventures. Initially, the second episode of the second part of the series, The Passion of Sabrina Spellman, their relationship gets off to a rocky start. The episode opens with Lilith beginning a wage with Dark Lord, reminiscent of Satan's own agreement with God in chapter 1 of the Book of Job, to test Sabrina's character. After Madame Satan, then revealed to be Lilith, the first among women, realizes that her lord, Satan, has chosen Sabrina to be his herald in hell above Lilith. If Lilith wins the wager and proves Sabrina's soul to tend toward the light, she will be given the title of Satan's herald and queen of hell. If the Dark Lord wins, Lilith will remain in servitude to him for perpetuity. So while Lilith initially feels great jealousy towards Sabrina, by the end of the second part of the series, Sabrina and Lilith have teamed up in rebellion against the Dark Lord. The final episode opens with a bold "in the beginning," as you will have seen, and we hear Lilith narrate her own version of events. Having fled God, Adam, and Eden, she wandered the wasteland of the world until she encountered a beautiful man and a wingless angel, Lucifer. Lilith describes how she, Lilith, helped him and she healed him because she was first woman, but also first witch. Here then we encounter another kind of occult Adam and Eve, Lilith, the first woman, and Lucifer, the first fallen angel. Lilith plays the role of helper to Lucifer, but this is presented as a position of power and care. As the first witch, she has access to the knowledge required to help Satan to recover from his fall. Initially, Lilith recounts how their relationship was one of love and reciprocity, until finally Lucifer became a thing of darkness. In much the same way that the biblical story tells of an increasing enmity and distance between the genders, eventually leading to the dominion of men over women, according to Genesis 3:16. Lilith's retelling of her story echoes this pattern too. This scene that we've just watched gives the viewer the sense that many women at many points in history have suffered the same fates of both Eve and Lilith, and that Sabrina and Madame Satan stand in solidarity with them. Nonetheless, neither Sabrina nor Lilith remain victims forever. They are saved by solidarity. As with Plaskow's story, 2 women work together to trouble and the power of a male aggressor, and in doing so, Sabrina and Lilith are able to topple Satan. Lilith agrees to support Sabrina and provides her with intimate information about the weaknesses of the Dark Lord. In exchange, she promises to take the role of Herald of Hell off of Sabrina's hands. It's a win-win situation for the women in the structure of the television story plot. Both before Lilith takes her throne in hell, once they've successfully defeated Satan, she provides Sabrina with two gifts. One, the restoration of her magical powers, which had been taken away from her earlier in the series, and two, the restoration of her favorite teacher, Miss Wardwell, who Lilith had been inhabiting. Lilith's parting words to Sabrina suggest that in this retelling of Eve and Lilith's stories, the secret to success is sisterhood. As the newly self-crowned Queen of Hell, I bestow upon you, Sabrina Spellman, two gifts, says Lilith. So now, my dear, you have both power and freedom, and may you never give up either again. Interestingly, the chilling adventures of Sabrina is part of the burgeoning sisterhood of women who are out to hex the patriarchy. As institutional religion dwindles and alternative spiritualities are on the rise, interest in Wicca and neo-paganism has been growing. For the most part, it's growing amongst women. Indeed, women's political activism and the world of magic have remained important partners throughout the 20th and 21st century. Whether we think of Witch, that's the Women's International Terror Conspiracy from Hell, a group founded by radical left-wing feminists in the United States who gathered in 1968 to engage in direct political action, dressed all in black, to hex Wall Street, and then again in 1969 to hex President Nixon at his inauguration, or if we consider today's witches of Instagram, the hashtag has thousands of posts. The reappropriation of the witch, and I would argue alongside this, the figure of Eve in new and transgressive ways, sees both characters as all women, groovy, courageous, aggressive, intelligent, nonconformist, explorative, curious, independent, sexually liberated, and revolutionary, according to the manifesto of Witch. And offers a recognition that witches and gypsies, and again, I would argue Eve, were the original guerrillas and resistant fighters against oppression, particularly the oppression of women through the ages. And so both Eve and the witch, to me and to many others, stand at the core of feminist politics and popular culture influenced by that very same fight.